What's up, guys, and welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast. Today's episode, we talk with Hollywood veteran Josh Lewis, who you might remember from being the first guitarist for a little band called Warrant back in the mid-80s when the band was making its first baby steps. Josh has created a new band called Anita Squeeze with a much more classic bluesy 70s rock sound. So after listening to this episode, check out Anita Squeeze on Spotify and other streaming platforms because trust me, they rock. Oh, you can also get a physical copy of the album as well. I'll put the link to that in the description. So, also, before I forgot, this is the first episode where you'll be hearing my buddy David Mullican as co-host. So I hope you like him as well. So, without further ado, here is Josh Lewis. Rock on! Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast. This is your host, Santi Tricks, along with my new co-host, David Mullican, coming from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey David, how are you?
I'm good, Santi. How are you, man?
I'm fine. It's a pleasure having you as a co-host now. I know you were present for the Lex Up interview. Like a ghost in the a fly on the wall, but
It was a
but
fly on
you
the
were
wall.
there.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really.
But it's really nice having you here for actually being part of the show, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm happy for the opportunity, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so today we have a very special guest, Josh Lewis. How are you, Josh?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing good.
Welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast.
Did somebody steal those books off your shelf?
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that. Yeah,
Or did you just stop reading?
no, yeah, I hate it everyone. No, I'm moving like this Friday, so everything is
Ah,
on boxes and it's a mess. It's
I
everything's
like these
packed up.
stories.
Yeah.
I like these
So
stories.
yeah, yeah. So
These are all the
okay.
books he's read in his lifetime.
Yeah, books on tape.
Yeah, but all right. So how are you? What's up? What's up, Josh? How are you?
Everything's great, my friend. Doing music, still doing music. We'll always do music. We've got a new band called Anita Squeeze. Got Anita Squeeze shirt right here.
Nice.
Nice.
And if you like one, you can hit me up and I'll get you one. Um, Band's doing great. We just released our first EP, 5-song EP called Anita
It was
Squeeze.
excellent, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Very
appreciate
good.
that. Thank
I
you.
love it.
Oh,
It
awesome.
it
Well, tell a
it
friend.
has it has this sort of seventies vibe. Would you say that's
Yeah.
accurate?
Man.
Well, I always thought it's kind of funny because, when we were, kids in the 80s, our favorite music was music from the 70s, And so a lot of people sort of assume that 80s musicians really love 80s music, but you
Right.
kind of you kind of like what's behind you more than what's in front of you sometimes. And yeah, I mean Aerosmith, Stones, Beatles, Tom Petty, you know,
Right.
Zeppelin, Van Halen, all that shit, early Van Halen. Um, that's where it all comes from for us and for me,
That's awesome.
for
Were
sure.
you
And it goes
were
deeper
you
too.
in were you into like the Sweet and all those bands as well, or not as much?
I appreciated them, but I never really dove into them. But
Okay.
I got to jam with a couple guys from Sweet at the
Really?
whiskey jam one night. That was pretty cool. Yeah, we didn't do any Sweet songs. We did like a car song and Wanted Dinner Alive by Bon Jovi. But they were cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. That's
Very
some of
cool.
the benefits of living out here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Eh,
Just some.
So there's a lot. Yeah.
So
But
so
yeah,
when
Anita Squeeze the EP's. It's awesome. We have our first single is called "Throw Me a Line." You can hear it on YouTube. We have a video on YouTube, and the next single will be coming out pretty soon called "Don't Let Your Lovin' Go Bad." And I got a great band of musicians, and I'm just really excited about it. So thank you guys for helping me promote it. I appreciate it so much.
Very
yeah,
cool.
man, it's really good. I really like the song. What part about love don't you understand?
Thanks. Yeah, I get that a lot. That's kind of my it's a little more pop, but also has a little bit of an edge to it. Very Beatles influence, you know, and catchy line. So thank you for liking that one.
Yeah, I would actually have to go with the first single. So,
Throw Me a Line.
yeah, exactly. And that's funny because we were just talking we did an episode about favorite 80 albums from 89. And I just said how most of the time I do not like the first single. Like I'm usually like, oh, I know there's something better on the album. But in this case, man, yeah, I really dig that song. I think that it's a good way to start off the album as well. And I thought you guys did awesome
Yeah.
on that.
Thanks. I mean, you kind of want your first single to be what, you know, represents the band the most, you know? But this band has so many influences and styles, you know, but I think it has a common thread that runs through everything, which I don't know how to pinpoint what that is, but it's, you know, it's like if you listen to the Beatles, and I'm not comparing myself to the Beatles, but you know, they tackled all kinds of genres, but it was always the Beatles, you know, and that's something that I strive to do.
Yeah, well,
Cool,
you
man.
nailed it on this EP, that's for sure.
Thank you so
Do you
much.
have do you have any like time frame as when you might put together a full album, or nothing really yet?
I plan on promoting this EP for the next 10 to 12 months. You know, a lot of people, I mean, I have probably 7 full-length albums worth of material waiting.
Oh, wow.
You know, I could do it right now, but you know, you want to nurture something like this for a little while because it takes a while, you know. And
Right.
fortunately, people sort of have a little bit of interest in my past, so it opened some doors and into interviews like with you guys, and you know, people actually willing to listen to this album. In an age where there's so easy to release music, you can just do it in your room, you know. That, you know, it's nice because I get a little more attention than some others, but still could be even better.
Well, I mean, in an age that there's so much music available, right? Only a few really stand out, and I think your stuff has that potential, man. I really do. I think it's good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I definitely
Nice of you.
agree.
Thanks.
And so how? Tell us about that project. When did that band started?
So we started really getting serious right before the pandemic. You know, about I mean, I've been working on it for a while, but finding the right guys has been challenging, and it's still evolving, to be honest. But we've been playing shows, local shows. We did a show at a local bar here called the Universal Bar and Grill, and this magazine called Music Connection magazine showed up without warning, and they ranked us in the top 100 unsigned bands in the nation. So that was a huge compliment.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just been a project. I mean, I've been in bands since I was, you know, 15, and off and on. And I had one band that I was in the early 90s that was probably the best band I was ever in. It was called Grace Period. We had an amazing singer who was kind of like an edgier Paul Rogers named Rail, and a couple other guys. And unfortunately, the band fell apart due to substance abuse. And that band, the singer was the main songwriter. And when that band broke up, you know, and prior to that, Janie was a songwriter. Before Janie, we had Adam Shore in Warrant, so he was a songwriter. So after Grace Period broke up, I said, you know, I need to start writing songs and learning to sing because I can't depend on other people anymore. And so writing songs came really easy for me. Singing, not so much. Took a long time, you know. And I worked on it, you know, and it took me years. It took me years to get to a point where people heard my voice and sort of reacted positively, you know. And a lot of people, they go from guitar to singing and they think, you know, it's easy or they can do it. But, you know, you could always tell when someone's watching you and they're being sincere or they're just being, you know, nice. And for a long time, I'd get off stage and people would walk up to me and say, yeah, that was good. And then a long pause, you know. And I took that as a sign that I'm not ready.
I actually like your voice. I thought, I mean, I
Yeah.
thought it really stood out. And
Well, thank you.
I was really surprised. I had to look, and when I found out that you were doing the lead vocals and guitar, I mean, I was like,
Well,
wow,
what
that's
you're
awesome.
seeing and hearing is actually the product of years of practice. Once I got to the point where I said, where people started to react like, oh my God, you sound great. You know, I love the songs or whatever. I was getting real enthusiastic and genuine response. That's when I started really saying, all right, what am I going to do next? I had the songs, I have the backlog, you know, but now I can make them sound like they should. So it's one of those things where a lot of people think, you know, oh, he has a good voice or a bad voice. You know, there's little
Yeah.
things that, just like anything, if you know these little skills, it adds up to a final product that's you know, good, you know. And so it just came with a lot of hard work, and just like anything else, I could have taken the route of just playing guitar and went on tour with some other bands, or you know, been at the mercy of someone's tour schedule, or if they decide they want to start with a new band, you know, out of the blue, kind of like in that movie. I don't know if you saw that movie, Hired Guns, where like
Oh yeah.
Billy Joel had his core band for years and years, and then
And
the
he just
drummer, the drummer finds out from a friend who wants tickets to the show that he's playing a show, and he's not playing that show because he was kicked out, you know. So that was not a route for me. I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the touring musician, hired gun type. I'm a creative. So yeah, it took a long time, but I'm thankful that I stuck it out, because here I am, and here we are. And now I get to talk to nice people like you.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
I don't know how nice we really are, but
Yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Santi's nice,
uh,
I can
we can say
yeah,
we are
he might be a little nicer
okay.
than me.
say. Yeah.
All right, so Josh, so uh, what really made you want to be a musician?
So, you know, my mother was very into the arts, and she loved music, and when she was younger in school, she took clarinet lessons, you know. And so she kind of encouraged me to take music lessons. And when I was really young, I learned how to play clarinet a little bit in school, you know.
Yeah.
And I was not digging it very much, and so I wanted to play banjo. I thought banjo was really cool. I was about 6 or 7, and banjo was a little too big for me. And so they said, how about you try ukulele? So I started playing the ukulele a little bit, and then I said, I'm ready to play guitar. So we bought a guitar, and I played for a little while. But my teacher was like this old lady, and she was teaching me Mary Had a Little Lamb and, you know, John Denver songs that I wasn't really particularly fond of at the time. And I quit. I quit playing guitar. So I gave my guitar to my neighbor. Actually, I sold it to her for $25. She kept it, never learned to play. And then when I was about 12, I went back to her apartment, and the guitar was sitting there, and they gave it back to me for free. So scored $25 guitar for free.
That was just a rental fee.
Yeah. But then I started taking lessons, and right around the block was a place called Fairfax Music School. And I remember I started getting serious about it. And, you know, I grew up in the same neighborhood as a lot of pretty special people, like Slash, for example, lived in my neighborhood, and Tracy Guns. And, you know, I went to Fairfax High, and there was a whole slew of people who became very, very successful from Fairfax High. In fact,
Yeah, rock and roll high school.
it's the real rock and roll high school, baby. And it really is. You know, I mean, first of all, before this period of time, like from 1979 to 1986, you had an unbelievable amount of people. But before that, you had Herb Alpert, a couple of the Jacksons went there, like Tito, and I don't know who else, maybe Randy or something. But then from 79 to 1986, you had the Chili Peppers. You had the original singer for the Chili Peppers, a guy named, and guitar player named Alan Johannes, who went on to produce No Doubt, Chris Cornell's solo record, them Crooked Vultures. He played in, I think he played in them Crooked Vultures too. And he's just sort of like an underground legend. And then you had Guns N' Roses, because Slash went there, and so did Steven Adler. And then Warrant started there, and then LA Guns. And then there's a whole bunch of bands that never really did a whole bunch of stuff. And then we had this punk band called Mad Society with a bunch of little kids. Actually, the singer was a little kid. He was 9 years old, and they were playing all the clubs at 9 years old. And it was just fantastic. And then when you get to 86, you had Rami Jaffe, who's the keyboard player for the Foo Fighters, you know.
Right.
And it's just in the branches of all the people and all the bands, it's pretty incredible. So that was, there was, we weren't interested in football and sports. We wanted to be like Saul Slash, and play guitar. And that was kind of like what you did at Fairfax High. So I started taking lessons at this school. And one day my teacher's teaching me how to play Back in Black, and my lesson's over, and I'm 12 or so. And we open the door and Slash is right there. And my teacher goes, "Hey, I might have a gig for you." And I'm thinking, he's fucking 15 or 14 or 15, and they're already offering him gigs. I mean, the guy was just, amazing from the start. So that was an interesting experience. And there's a lot of stories about that I can go into too.
Cool. So what was your first band?
First band I was ever in was Warrant. A band called Warrant, who you might have heard of.
Yeah. It rings a bell.
What was that band?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did some things. Yeah. When I joined Warrant, it wasn't even, not one of the members that you would know of were in it. It was the original singer named Adam Shore, who lives in Texas now, and Max Mazursky, who lives in Vegas. And those two had bands at their middle school, and I went to the other middle school. And basically, I answered an ad, or I placed an ad in a recycler, and Adam stole his mom's car, came over to pick me up, and me and him jammed. And then Max was like at summer camp or something, and then he came back, and then we started as a three-piece. So it was literally Warrant without Eric, without Jerry, definitely without the rest of those guys.
Wow.
And then as that evolved, in fact, our first show was a party in 1984, New Year's Eve, going into 1984, and it was Warrant, Tyrus, which was Tracy Gunn's band, and Road Crew, which was Slash's band. So the three of us all played this one night, this infamous night, and that was the beginning. And then Warrant started to we started to get more members. We got Eric. Eric was dating a girl, and her friend was dating my drummer Max. And then the girl was like, "Hey, I know a guitar player if you guys are interested," and it was Eric. So Eric turned and joined the band, and we had another bass player for a little bit named Alan Fisher, and he since passed away, but he wasn't really he was sort of like, he looked cool, so we taught him how to play bass, And we played our first show at the Troubadour in September of '84, and Jerry Dixon's band played on the bill with us. They were called Risk. We had an after party, and Jerry came, and then we were like, that guy's a real bass player, and he's cool, and he joined the band. And then we just played. We worked really hard. We played the clubs. We played everywhere. We were passing out flyers, posting flyers all over the city, trying to get anyone to come to our shows. And we were sort of following the Poison model, which Poison was, what made them so successful, besides being fun and a great live band, they worked hard promoting it. We were right behind them doing it. So we were posting flyers all over the city, and before you knew it, we were headlining all the clubs. And as we were like at our peak, Adam and Max said, "Hey, this band isn't going the direction we want. Let's start another band." So Adam and Max quit. Their band flopped, basically, and entered Janie Lane and Stephen Sweet a month later. A month later, we were playing a show. Actually, within a week, we had Janie and Stephen, and then a month later, we were playing shows. Wow. And then, for me, I was younger than the rest, and I just wasn't on the same tip as them in terms of knowing my craft very well, and in terms of, really didn't have the money to buy the best equipment. So I had a lot of issues with tuning problems and stage, and just
Right.
You know, yeah, I don't know how much you guys know about guitar playing, but like you have minor keys and major keys, right? And Adam wrote everything in minor keys. It's very easy to play in minor keys. But I didn't stick with guitar lessons long enough to know about major keys. So when Janie came in, everything was in major keys. So when I would solo, it would be just bad, not sounding good. So, you know, you live and learn. And then I fell behind, and then they asked me to leave. And then Joey joined. So
Right.
that was pretty much my stint with Warrant. But as painful as it was probably the best educational lesson I could learn about, you know, John Wooden, the old UCLA basketball coach, said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so I realized that's what I did, you know. And
That's
so
good. Yeah.
it taught me, yeah, and it taught me, it gave me a sort of an addiction to want to learn. And now, like, I spend a lot of time just learning anything I can. I love it now. So
Mhm.
there you have it.
How is your relationship with those guys? Do you see any of them, talk to them, or is it pretty much
No,
just
it's great. I mean, we're all cool. I went on stage with Warrant just before the pandemic. It was kind of nice. I played Cherry Pie with them at the Canyon Club out here in Agora. And Max, I talked to. Adam, he lives in Austin, and he's a little aloof. He's off of social media. Uh, as far as Jerry's also kind of aloof. He keeps to himself. I don't really have much connection with him, but we're cool. And Eric and I have always been really cool. We were kind of like, you know, I'd say Max and I and Eric and I were like the closest of brothers at certain times, you know. So yeah, Eric's very cool. Hmm.
awesome?
Yeah, I'm happy for those guys. And you know, they had their rough times too. It wasn't all, uh, you know, it wasn't always a day at the beach for them. They had their own rough times, and you know, from my perspective, it was kind of, uh, you know, I felt bad for them, but at the same time, I was also like, you know, that's the breaks. That's the industry. You know, if you're
Yeah.
lucky, you get 2 years in that industry. You know,
Yeah,
Hmm.
so
you're right.
they had a great run, and unfortunately, they did what I learned not to do. Is they depended on one person to carry them. You know, Eric and Jerry, Steven, Joey, they're not songwriters. They might write a riff or something here or there, but Janie is a bona fide songwriter. You know,
Yeah,
he knows
he's
the
one.
craft. Yeah, he was a great songwriter. Adam Shore was a great songwriter. Um, and I've been lucky to have those guys as inspiration for me to write songs because they taught me the foundation, you know,
Mhm.
and with my continued learning of my instruments, you know, it's made it easier for me to write songs. And you know, I get the process, and I do it with the idea of making them, you know, uh, memorable, unique, and with some integrity behind it, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
and
I like to.
it really does come out on that EP that you guys just released. I mean, the songwriting, you could tell. I mean, you could tell.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so I have no regrets at all. You know, you have to do what you have to do. That's what
Mhm.
life is about. So, you know, I've had to be in that position too, where, you know, I have band members of my own that, you know, and you would think I would be a little less callous. And I try to be sensitive to everyone's situation, but sometimes
Right.
you're in a band with someone and it's like a marriage, you know, and, you know, you got to find your soulmate because you might end up on the road with that person for the rest of your life,
Hmm.
you know, in the same van or in the same bus or whatever. And you know, you want to make sure that there's respect for each other, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really.
So did you play it in any other bands back in the 80s, 90s, or
Yeah,
what did you
I
do?
played after Warrant. I joined a band called Lightning Gypsy Lover.
Oh, cool name.
We weren't very good. Yeah, we weren't very good. I didn't think we were that great. But the singer, he looked like Steven Tyler, and he sounded like, and I was like, this guy's fucking great. You know, I loved him. Um, but the band wasn't next level. You know, they weren't really, uh, you know, I don't know. They were just sort of, I don't know how to put it, but I was different than them. You know, I felt like a little different, and so I left that band. And then there was this other kid named Cody Jarrett who moved out from Florida, and he was a really cool looking kid he could write songs, very pop songs. And I played with him for a little while, and then what happened? Oh, then Grace Period came around, and Grace Period was, like I said earlier, the best band I've ever been in. I mean, Warrant may have been more known, but Grace Period was like, it was just like a powerhouse band. And there's some demos around, and we were really having a great time. And we would bring up people like Dizzy Reed would come up on stage with us all the time, because our drummer and him were in a band from the past. And yeah, that was a great band. That was the one that got away from me, really. After Grace Period, I took some time off, and I started working on myself musically. But then this other band came about called Caroline Spine, and the drummer from Caroline Spine was Annette Funicello's son. Do you know who Annette Funicello is?
I do.
You do. Do you know, Santi?
Santi might be too young.
I'm not really sure.
She was one of the original Mouseketeers in the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh.
And she was the biggest star from it. And she did all these movies with Frankie Avalon and stuff. And
all the beach movies.
Yeah, all the beach movies. And then, but her son was a great drummer, a great kid named Jason. And so we started this band, or I joined this band called Caroline Spine, and that was a lot of fun. It was a little more alternative than my thing. You know, I'm really a rootsy rock and roll guy, and they were a little more alternative, and that was in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And ironically, Adam Shore, the original singer from Warrant, played bass with us. So that was kind of fun to
nice
reconnect with him on that. Huh?
I was just going to say exactly what you said, just reconnecting.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. That was before he moved to Texas. What else?
Yes. Right. So that was in the 90s, and so what would you say are your, I don't know, your like influences in that way? You say you were a rootsy guy.
I'm a rootsy guy. So so band wise, you know, I love the bands I mentioned earlier, you know, the Beatles, Aerosmith, but I also love Motown. The Temptations are one of my favorite bands. I think David Ruffin had one of the greatest voices in music history. I love Ray Charles, another great voice. So I have that influence from the old soul kind of stuff as well. Those four, you know, Aerosmith, Beatles, Temptations, and Ray Charles are my four core go-to. Like, I love them. But I also love Tom Petty, the Eagles, you know, I mean, most classic rock, Zeppelin, you know, all of those, you know, classics, Stones, Deep Purple, you know, all of that stuff. And then you get into like Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was like a god to me, an absolute god. And funny story is I got to play softball with him for 4 weeks at his up in the valley somewhere with him and his core group of friends. And it was right when Valerie Bertinelli got pregnant with Wolfgang. And it was amazing because I was playing first base and he was playing shortstop, and he'd throw the ball to me and it'd be like slow motion. Eddie Van Halen just threw that ball to me, you know, and I catch it and I was like, wow, that's amazing, you know. It was cool. He knew me by name. And at that time, he was looking for a guitar tech. And I thought about like asking, but I didn't ask. And then one of the guys there ended up being his guitar tech for a long time. I forget his name. But I didn't want to be a guitar tech even for him. I wanted to be him.
No doubt. That would have been a cool gig, though. That would have been a cool gig.
That would have been a great gig. Yeah. But ironically, at the same time, I had met my now wife. So who knows if I would have screwed that whole thing up, you know?
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I still haven't forgiven Wolfgang for being born at that time, conceived at that time. Because what happened was Valerie, I guess, had some miscarriages prior, so they were super careful, and they called off all the games, and because of that, I never got to know Eddie any better. That was it.
Right.
But yeah, another great story being in LA.
Yeah, I mean, you were back to the so you were at the right place at the right time, right? So
Some of
I'm only 30, and David was stuck in Ohio, so we didn't really live
yeah.
that era. But I guess you have some great stories from back then. So what was your Sunset Strip experience in the 80s like?
Uh-huh. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. Yeah. No, the Sunset Strip was like just an incredible place, you know. I mean, at first we would go out there and we'd pass out flyers and we'd be kind of intimidated, you know, timidly going, "Want my flyer?" You know. And then I remember we got a gig with Poison, and then it was like, "Hey, we're playing with Poison, come check it out," you know. And then before you knew it, we just started having a name for ourselves, and then that was, you know, we just kept making new friends by passing out flyers. It was really fantastic, and you'd meet people, you know, and there'd always be some party, you know, and you
Right.
could show up at midnight and just hang out for an hour, and you'd meet people again, you know, and it was a wild time. It was wild. Thousands of people on the street, flyers all over the floor, all the ground, you know. Every club, you
Yeah.
got Guitari's, uh, the Roxy, the Whiskey, right there. Now the Viper Room. It was called the Central back then. I mean, all the clubs. It was a madhouse, absolute madhouse.
Did you have
Well,
like a
yeah,
favorite one?
Sorry,
Did you have like a favorite one for
favorite
the club?
club?
Yeah.
Well, the band we always played the Troubadour. The Troubadour was like our main gig, but
Yeah.
they were all great. I mean, the Roxy was like a step up. That was always a little bit more classy. Uh, the Whiskey was great. Also, I mean, they're all great. It's really not about the venue as much as it is about, you know, the experience. I think for
Right.
me, you know, there
Right.
was a club in the Valley called the Country Club, and our manager was booking the Country Club, so he would always get us all the great shows, and so we can go see all the great shows. And that was a bigger place. That was 1,500 seater. So we started opening up for Poison there a lot, you know, and that gave us a huge you know, jolt as far as popularity went. So it was great. And we had magazines down, you know, in those days too. Like there was a magazine called BAM Magazine, which was a free paper, and it listed all the clubs, and it was all based around music and some other things. But it was so great because you can put an ad in there, you know, for $400, get a full page ad, and you knew everyone that was going to go to the shows was going to see it.
Right.
And we don't have that now. Like LA it's so dead because there are no magazines like that, and the clubs are different. They don't have bands playing together that are like each other. You know, we used to have nights where it was Poison, Warrant, Mickey Knight, which ended up becoming Bang Tango, you know, Guns N'
Yeah.
Roses and Kicks and Feline. You know, Kicks would come in town, and I remember seeing Guns N' Roses open up for Kicks, you know, at the Troubadour. You know,
Nice.
it was just every show was more of an event, and so it's what made LA so special. And I think if a promoter had the balls to do that now, they would actually, you know, bring the city back and actually, you know, have more success than what they're having right now with the pay to play and all that crap.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's like this resurgence of these like reunion shows for bands. I see that a lot of that nowadays.
Hmm.
Not so much like new bands or I don't know, legacy acts, but yeah, there's this annual reunion shows that a lot of bands are doing.
Yeah, you know, and it's kind of cool because yeah, you have these Kiss cruises, you know, and it's Warrant, LA Guns,
Yeah.
Tom Kiefer's, you name it, you know. It's great because there's still, you know, after all this time, everyone's a legend now. You know, it's kind of like they're legends, and they bring back that time of their past. But there are
Right.
some great bands. I think, you know, the Struts are a fantastic band. My favorite new band. There's uh, Greta Van Fleet.
That's a good
Um,
one. Yeah.
I like
I
them. I
like
mean,
them.
they're very Zeppelinish, but you know, at least they're, whether you like them or not, they're actually carrying the torch for rock and roll. You know, Dirty Honey is a great band. You know, so hopefully, you know, more and more kids are starting to get exposed. Um, you know, we just took my kids to see the Elvis movie, which is amazing. And,
Oh
you know,
wow,
they
I
don't know
haven't
much
seen it
about
yet.
Elvis. They don't know that, you know. And so the fact that they're starting to see a little bit of what rock and roll is like, you know, or that they're hearing Fleetwood Mac on TikTok with that guy on the skateboard, you know,
Hmm.
that's all really good for the genre of music.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all it's cool that I love going to a show and seeing young people, and they're rocking out. I just recently went and saw Slaughter. We had an Ohio bike night here, and it
Mm.
was Slaughter and Steelheart. And
Oh,
I'm
cool.
standing there, I'm looking around, and up in the front of the stage, bunch of teenagers, and they're singing the songs, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And
That's
I don't
really
know, man,
cool.
just yeah, that gets me all pumped up whenever I see that. And then my kids are into it. My youngest son just saved up $1,000 and bought himself his first Fender Strat on his
No
own.
shit.
Yeah, I was like, Caden, I'll give you a couple $100 to put toward. No, Dad, this is mine. I want it to be. It's my own thing. It's cool.
That's great.
And yeah, dude, he picked it up, man. And next thing I know, he learned Planet Caravan and a couple other like a couple Nirvana tracks. He's just picking it up and just playing, man, and it's awesome.
That's
It's
so great. I
awesome.
mean, I like hearing when a kid can actually, you know, they want to pay for it themselves. They want to know that they did the work to get it. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's so easy
Well,
to learn nowadays with YouTube, you know.
yep, yeah. And he goes out and buys vinyl with me. Me and him go vinyl shopping, so it's kind of
That's
our
great.
thing. So it's pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what's, you know, there's a lot of new stuff and there's a little bit of a revival happen. I don't know if you've seen these girls on Instagram. They dress up like total 80s. They got their hair done up like, you know,
Yeah.
Tiny Tane or something, and they're all doing these sexy poses. And it's funny because it's not really uh, it kind of sets you back because you're like, it's pretty authentic, but it's so not happening right now. But they're like
Yeah,
pushing forward with it that it could actually pick up really soon. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
hey, I wouldn't mind. It'd be cool.
Yeah, but
I'd
you know,
accept.
there's another great band. You heard of that band, Classless Act?
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
haven't.
heard them.
I haven't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this guy, Derek Day, he is just a bona fide madman on stage. And I've been watching him in the clubs here for the last few years. He's just great. He plays guitar, he sings like a motherfucker. And next thing I know, he's playing in a band with Slash's kid, London. And that kid's a
Right.
great drummer. I'm not sure what happened, but London is no longer in that band. But they're now opening for Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard on that tour in stadiums. Like their first tour is opening stadiums for the biggest show
Wow.
of the year. So, you know, I'm
Man,
very excited for that, man. That's really cool. Yeah.
That's
talk,
gotta
talk
be
about talk about
that.
landing the dream gig there, huh?
Oh man,
Right.
Tommy
I
Lee's a big
mean,
fan of theirs, and the guy's he's just like a natural. So if you haven't checked him out, I recommend it. And I think they could also carry the torch. We need that.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
for
So,
sure.
are you into all these the Swedish bands that are coming out as well? These Crazy
Yeah,
Legs, those kind of
like
bands.
Helicopter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They're
I
not
like
new.
them.
They're an older band.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
No,
been
yeah,
listening to Helicopter, the Golden Gods. I don't know if, but I'm not into like the heavy shit. I like the early '80s influenced metal. You know, that's kind of sounds like Judas
right,
Priest, Screaming for
right.
Vengeance, and British Steel. That era, you know, that that's probably the best era of metal in my opinion. You know, Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz, Diary, um, uh, you know, all the bands that were out at that time were so much fun. Black Sabbath, even I love Dio with Sabbath as well as Ozzy, but the Dio stuff, that was my
Mhm.
first concert. You know, Maiden, Killers with Paul Diano, is that his name? Yeah, that
Yeah.
you know, it was an edge to that, a sound that kind of got lost in the '80s with that that kind of thing. It got kind of redundant to me, but the older stuff lives on.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. I think there was a band that kind of the band Riot. Um,
Hmm.
had what was I can't think of the one album they had out.
Narita.
No, it was Fire Down Under.
Mm.
That is
Mm-hmm.
that's a killer rock record right there, and
Yeah, there's
that's kind of in that vein that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Totally. And Kicks had a little bit of that, but they were kind of a little more groovy.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
I love that band.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a big
that's
Kicks fan
great.
too. Big Kicks
Yeah, me
fan.
too.
Great live band. Have you seen them?
Ah, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. And I'm glad that they're still doing it today, and you
Yeah.
know, and they recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, it's been a few years now, but that last album they put out, I think it was called Rock Your Face Off, I think it was.
Yeah.
That was a killer sounding album, and it's
I didn't listen to it. I gotta check it out.
yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent. It was the last one they put out. I can't remember the year, but yeah, it's a great record. It's crazy because I think a lot of those bands, like when they were putting out these later records, I think a lot of it suffered not from songwriting or anything like that, but from the production. I thought a lot of the production was kind of lacking, because when you were on the major labels, they put you in there with the best producers they could find.
Yeah.
Then if you're, you get off, start doing it on your own, unless they were producing it themselves. You know, some of this, it's just, some of the production is lacking, but it's good to see that they're still putting out music and it still sounds great. And
That's the thing that kind of sucks is because like you take a band like Def Leppard who had Mutt Lange producing them, and then now they try and release stuff, and the songs might be great, but maybe they're not living up to the full potential because they don't have a guy like Mutt, behind the helm, and
yeah,
and it's like the Beatles had George Martin the whole ride, If they would, I mean, they did switch at the end with Phil Spector, but they even that's a different sounding record, but it was great. It was raw, but with
yeah,
George Martin, it was a different thing. It was much more produced. There was all kinds of other instruments coming in, and that's part of the sound of a band. Def Leppard, I hate to say it, but if they want to have that kind of success, pay for Mutt Lange, get them out there if they can.
yeah, get them back.
They can handle another year and a half of recording, and 1,000 takes.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe with the revenue from this tour, they can get Matt back again.
Yeah, that's true, right? He's not doing a whole lot right now, I don't think. Maybe I should
Yeah,
call
his
him. You guys
name,
know his
his
number?
name does not come up quite as often as it used to.
Yeah,
No.
after Shania Twain, he did that Bryan Adams song, which is brilliant. But yeah, I mean, you have to always be better than your last thing, and that's the hardest part. And like, here's another Slash story. There used to be, well, actually, it's still there. There's a newsstand in Hollywood, right across the street from Fairfax High, called Centerfold. And Slash worked there for years and years. But after he left, I worked there. And I remember one time he came in and they were just about to open for the Stones at the Coliseum, which is like a football stadium. Everyone in town knew they were playing. And he was kind of strung out, it was kind of sad. I think he was going through some stuff. His grandmother died or I don't know what, but it was kind of rough. But there was a lot of pressure on them too, because Appetite was so big. And the label says, guys, we need you to top this. It's the biggest selling debut album in rock and roll history at the time. Maybe even still, I don't know. How are you going to top that? And so
Right.
that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And, you almost want to get better. You want to start small and then get, slightly better each time instead of starting like, with 12 million records and have to worry about doing 13 million the next one or whatever.
Right.
That's not an easy task. So it's tough it's tough industry in that way. But
Yeah,
that's what it is,
record companies aren't looking out for that. They're just looking out for, here, you have to do this,
And granted, they could tour, arenas and stadiums for the rest of their life just with their backlog because they have so many great songs,
Yeah.
but there is that pressure. I think now they don't have that pressure as much because, they're where they are now, and I think they will never lose the fact that they wrote Appetite for Destruction. for destruction. You know, they will never, no one could ever take that away from them. So as time goes on, people want to hear Appetite.
Of course,
And
yeah.
newer songs may not be accepted as well, even if Mike Klink did it or Mutt Lang or whoever.
Well, that's kind of how I felt like when they put out the Use Your Illusion albums. I thought if they, you know, I wonder if they felt they had to put 2 albums out like that and make it a spectacle like that in order to top Appetite. But I feel like if you take those 2 albums, you can put the 2 together and have one killer album. Because I think that first one has a lot of filler on it. 2 is a great one. But
yeah, we're on the same page on that. I mean, you take Pretty Tied Up, the first version of Don't Cry, you know, Live and Let Die, you know, and then a handful of others. You would have just, you know, an easily as good an album as Appetite.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of filler stuff. That Get in the Ring thing, you know, I'm not sure why they put that on there. But yeah, I mean,
who knows?
but you know, there's a lot of bands that are of the kind of theory of like, you know, every song should be 3 minutes, and you know, you want to leave them wanting more. And Guns N' Roses is not like that. They're, from my perspective anyway, their whole thing is we want to give them everything we can, because we're giving the audience, we don't want to rip the audience off. We want to give them everything. That's why they do these long 3-hour shows, you know, like Bruce Springsteen, these 3-hour shows, because they're giving so much to the audience. You know, at the same time, sometimes even when you're watching your favorite bands for 3 hours, you might be like, all right, you know, okay, you know, something from Chinese Democracy's on. I guess it's a good time to go to the bathroom, you know.
Right.
Refresh. So
Josh,
Sorry, Axel.
yeah, right. So
what did you say?
No, I was just gonna say. So for Anita Squeeze, do you have any upcoming shows?
We don't have anything lined up right now. Taking time to just promote it.
Okay.
You know, I'm sort of reforming the group in a way. I got a great keyboard player. He's sticking around, as far as I know. Hopefully, we're looking for a drummer and a bass player. So there's no shows lined up right now, but we're getting a lot of press, and that's really the main thing right now. Because in my view, you could have the best album in the world, but if nobody hears about it, you're not going to do well. So marketing has to be, you know, part of the equation.
Right.
And now it's all about clicks and all that other shit, you know, which, you know, I get it, but, you know, I could buy clicks. That doesn't mean anything, you know. So
right.
It's you know, we're really starting over. I mean, I'm just lucky that I have a little bit of a foot in, that I can do interviews like this, and hopefully, you know, slowly build it up, you know. But we'll be doing shows soon.
Awesome. So did you came up with the name for the band?
Yeah, the name. I always liked play on words, you know.
Yeah.
Like there used to be a guy in a band called Chuck Wagon, you know, from the Dickies. And I thought, you know, I like that kind of stuff. And like, you know, peripheral is a play on words. It means peripheral, you know,
right.
and which is, so I think that's always been fun. And I always thought, God, Anita just sounds like I need something, you know, and I was running around with all these stupid titles like I need an enema. I need a band, you know, stuff like that. And then I heard Squeeze Box by The Who on the radio, and I thought, I need a Squeeze Box. That's kind of cool, because Squeeze Box is kind of a sexual, it could be interpreted in sort of a sexual manner. And I was asking my best friend, his name's Paul Riopel, I was asking him about it, and he said, why don't you just call it Anita Squeeze? And I was like, that's fucking great. And it didn't even occur to me, you know, I'm not innocent, but I guess I'm a little naive. It didn't really occur to me what it really means at the time, you know. And then I started thinking about it, and you know, it's just naughty enough, to
Right.
go over people's heads, you know. So there it is, Anita Squeeze, and it's funny because I knew everyone would be wondering who Anita is, you know. I located it. I found this one publicist, and she called me, and she was, yeah, is Anita there? Yeah, I'm Anita. No, there's no Anita. I need a squeeze, baby. Come on now. Think you know what I'm
just
talking about.
just naughty
Definitely not
enough.
a name to
I like
forget.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. So I'm not sure how it's perceived or how it's received, but you know, I think it's, you know, I like that it starts with the letter A too. That kind of puts it in front of things. So
Right.
there you have it.
All
I got
right.
to come
Okay,
up with a
so
better
we
story.
solved
I
the
got to come
sensitive
up with like a
world.
fake story. I got to come up with one of those fake stories like, you know, all the big, you know, companies have, you know.
Right.
Why did you call it Amazon? I don't know. I was out in the Amazon and I was hunting, you know. Who knows?
Put your songwriting skills to work, but do it in a story. You'll come up
Yeah.
with something, I'm sure.
No, we have a song called Anita Squeeze. It's called Begging You Please, Anita Squeeze.
That's
And I
good.
saved it. I'm saving it for the next record because um, I just thought, you know, one thing I always loved was how On Through the Night by Def Leppard didn't have a song called On Through the Night on it. So that
Yep,
was
the
their
Yeah.
High and
first
Dry
record,
did.
you know, and then they put
Yep.
it on High and Dry, I think. So
hmm
so I thought, why not do that with this as a little bit of a tribute to them?
That's
That's good.
that's a good idea. It's a that's the key to success.
If that's the key, then
It worked for
I
them.
think I think it's a few keys. But yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, maybe you guys can afford Mutt Lang.
would be nice. For the next 20 years.
That'd be a heck of a debt to be in though.
Yeah, be worth it.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's
So what
really worth it.
I always like to wrap things up with the top three favorite albums from my
Top three
guests.
favorite albums.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'd have to say I'm gonna put these two together as one album because they're the Beatles. Rubber Soul and Revolver. To me,
Yeah.
those two records are so melodic, and I feel like it's kind of when the Beatles really uh, found a new level of growth, you know. So those two
Hmm.
are definitely one of my favorite albums. Um, Def Leppard High and Dry is a
Good
desert
one.
island disc. I could listen to that every day for the rest of my life and I wouldn't be sad. And Lenny Kravitz Let Love Rule,
Okay. That's
which is it has a touch
that's
of
a
that soul, but
yeah.
I love the songs and I love the production on it. It's just a very raw sound, kind of bass driven album. And I would, you know, I don't know how to do it, but I would love more than anything to write a rock album that's kind of like a hard rock album that has that kind of texture to it.
Yeah.
That would be something.
That I like his playing. Lenny Kravitz was actually my first rock and roll concert, which
Oh
is
yeah.
funny to say. So I'm 30, so this was when I was 12 back in '05,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I remember for my birthday I asked my mom I wanted to see Lenny Kravitz of all people. So
That's
we
awesome.
went. Yeah, he was playing a stadium tour he was doing. So
Wow.
yeah, he
Did
was
you
he
have
was
good
a
seats?
yeah, well, sort of. I mean, we were on the very on the other end of the stadium, but I could see him just fine, and I just love that show. Uh,
Yeah,
He's
that's
he
great.
great.
really
Yeah.
rocks out. Yeah.
He's a total rock star
Hmm.
and he's a great songwriter. And I have a funny story about him. Actually, two. I'll tell you the first one, which was short. I guess my wife, before I met her, she went to this club and he was there and he was totally hitting on her, which was kind of, but he was married to Lisa Bonet at the time. Yeah. But my wife, I can't get any information about that story. So, um, but my story is pretty funny and it's a little confusing. But I had a friend, we had a mutual friend, this guy named Tracy DeVie, and Tracy DeVie was his best friend in high school at Beverly High. And I was going out to visit family on the East Coast, where my family is, and he was living there with Lisa in Soho, in an amazing loft up in Soho with one of the members of the Wailers. I think it was like the harmonica player of the Wailers or something. Anyway, so this was literally the week that Rolling Stone released the cover with Lisa Bonet on the cover, where she was naked on the cover. So it was that week. And my friend gave me his number, and I called him, and I went down to his house, and he was recording Let Love Rule then. So he was only known as Lisa Bonet's husband, Romeo Blue. I think he just changed. He went back to Lenny Kravitz as his name. And so I call him, and he says, come on down. So I go to his house in Soho, and we're hanging out. And it's a little awkward. I didn't know him, but I was like, this guy's a fucking rock star, right? And so I'm sitting there. He says, hold on. He goes and gets dressed or whatever. And it's a big open loft, studio loft. Just there's no bedrooms really. It's just everything's in one room. But there's a little bathroom. And I'm sitting in this chair, and I'm sitting there waiting for him. And Lisa goes into the restroom, and it's like right in front of me, the restroom. And the door's closed, but it's not shut. And I'm sitting there, and her cat starts walking towards the door to use the litter box, and he hits over to the door, and he pushes it open. And there's Lisa Bonet sitting on the toilet peeing. And she looks, and she kind of like reaches over and shuts the door, and she's beautiful. And I was like, I looked away. I saw a little bit, but I had to look away, and kind of embarrassing. But she didn't care. And then so then later, me and Lenny were playing music together. We're just playing, and he plays me a song off of Let Love Rule called Rosemary, which he wrote for his mom. And I was like, oh my God, this is so what I want to do. Oh my God, And I was supposed to be in a band with his friend, Tracy. Tracy was doing something totally different. It was very Michael Jackson influenced, and it was not what I was into at the time. And I really didn't intend on being in his band. But when Lenny showed me his stuff, I was like, oh my God, if you ever need a guitar player, I would love more than anything to play with you. And he was like, yeah, man, cool. Yeah, that would be great, And then when I get back to LA, Tracy is pissed at me. He totally went and told Tracy that I was not loyal and whatever he told him, I don't even know. And I was like, oh, well, too bad. But man, that guy, I mean, the guy he got is great. I forget his name. He was in a band called Broken Homes, I think. Anyway, but just the experience of being there in his living room playing acoustic guitars with him. He taught me how to play Rosemary. We were jamming it, and it's just a great story. Just chalk it up to a great new story.
I mean,
Cool.
That's
pretty funny.
That's
awesome, man.
That's an awesome rock and roll experience right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Someday I'll write a book.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Hope to read that.
Yeah, rock and roll memoirs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are my 3 albums.
3 albums. Yeah, I mean, I agree with those. Those are great. So Josh, it's it's been a pleasure having you here. I could talk with you for hours. I think David thinks the same.
I know I can. I still want to talk. I just want to hang out.
I feel like I literally did talk for hours. Just boring.
But I'm glad. Hey, I'm glad you put High and Dry on your top 3 because that's like my all-time favorite album. Period. All-time
it's just
favorite.
So good. The guitar sounds. I really missed Pete Willis, actually. I thought he was a great part of that band, but
Yeah, I agree.
Phil Collins is great too, but in a different way. The guitar sounds on that album.
Yeah.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, awesome. So, where can our listeners find Anita Squeeze?
Okay. Well, first of all, please go to anitasqueeze.com, and you can join our mailing list, and we'll send you all kinds of prizes and gifts in the future. And from there, you can read our bio and get a little more information about the band. But there's also links to everywhere. You can hear us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, you name it. What are some of the other ones? SoundCloud. I don't know. I'm not real hip on the newfangled gadgets. But no, there's you can hear us everywhere. But please download the album. Download the album. It's I'm really proud of it. I think we're all pretty proud of it. It's very song oriented. It's all about songs. I could sit there and show off and play the fastest licks in the world, but if it doesn't have a melody or mean anything, then it's not what I'm going to do. It has to have a way to fit into the song structure and make the song build and be dynamic. And that's really what we want. And we hope you like the songs, and we'll take, hopefully we'll be seeing you in a city nearby. So
yeah, it'd be awesome.
So much.
Do you have any plans on releasing any kind of physical media on that, like a CD or vinyl? Or
I do have CDs. In fact, can you pause for a sec? We'll get some.
Yeah.
Here is the front cover.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see it.
Cool.
Let me pull it out of the packaging so you can really see it. This might take longer than the interview. Yeah, there it is, Anita Squeeze, and
Nice.
Awesome.
she's doing some laundry. And then there's the back cover, and
Nice.
I'm very excited about it. I hope you guys will
That's
pick
cool.
it up. It's only $9.99 if you download it, or you can order a CD. And just reach out to me from AnitaSqueeze.com, and I'll make sure you guys get one. Just send me your addresses. I'll send it to you.
Oh wow.
There you go. Anita Squeeze. I'm very proud of it, and can't wait to do more. But right now, this is our main focus, and I think, we're just gonna keep pushing and keep pushing. That's all we
Awesome,
can do.
man.
Very
Awesome,
cool.
that's cool. I'll put links to your stuff on the show's description, the podcast description, and I'll also be sharing on our social media as well, so everyone can check that out. All
Thank you.
right, so Josh,
Me
it's
as
been a
well.
pleasure, man. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. And and you're now a friend of the show, so whenever you have new stuff, let us know, and we'll have you back here.
Hey, thank you guys so much. It means everything. It means the world to me that you guys actually thought about putting me on your podcast. Even though I might have some history, it's all really, the beginning. So having an opportunity
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
this is really important. So thank you so much. It really means everything.
That's
No,
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, and thank you for being here. All right, Josh, take care, man.
All right. Peace.
Alright, folks, sadly that's all the time we have for today, but what an episode, right? Don't forget to hit the follow button on Spotify and share it with your friends. You can also follow us on Instagram at hollywood.dreams.podcast. And rock on!